record. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Sinatra. I'm the co-chair of centerNet, and on behalf of our executive committee with Jason Boyd present here, our secretary, and Kristen Mapes, our co-chair, who unfortunately had another meeting and can't be here this morning. I'm very happy to welcome you to our second lecture series for 2025. Where we have the pleasure this morning to listen to Martin Grandjean from the Université de Lausanne in Switzerland, who is the Vice Director of NUCLEUS, the Digital Humanities Center of the Arts Faculty, who will tell us about this initiative in Switzerland. And like the last talk with DBO, we will record this presentation to be made available on the centerNet website. And then we'll have informal conversations off the record afterwards. So without further ado, Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction and for inviting me to take part of this lecture series. I hope I can help you understand our young center as well as I can. Often when we present our center, we emphasize all impressive achievements, but we're still a very young center and we don't boast about what we do, and it's a very modest center. Of course, we boast a lot when we need to justify our budgets, but here we are here to discuss more about really the organization and how we experience digital humanities in the arts faculty. So I'm going to focus mostly on the organization because that's perhaps what makes this center a bit special. And I hope that this will be the occasion for an interesting discussion because, yeah, I'm hoping that you'll have some advice to give us based on your own institutional experiences. NUCLEUS is a unit of the Faculty of Arts at the University of Lausanne. So that's in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. The materiality of such a center is difficult to establish, which is why we often present an image of a website. I'm sure you do the same thing in many contexts with your respective centers. If you are not lucky enough to have permanent facilities and staff. And the materiality of a center that presents itself as a meeting place for different communities of practice, and especially digital ones, is even more problematic. Fortunately, the whole faculty occupy the same building, which you can vaguely see in the illustrative image on this website. But one of the problems we could discuss is how to become a place when you are a center in digital humanities, and that's really a problem we have to really be a place, a physical place as well for our colleague. By the way, if it's big enough for you to read, you can see that our next event is a conference by Michael. I'm sure he'll be in the postal of centerNet. So let's get back to the historical and institutional context of the center. Let's go back 10 years to recall the DH 2014 conference. Some of you probably remember looking for your names on the big red carpet, which features the network of the conference co-authors. Some of you might still have these pictures that were taken, these portraits that were taken, or maybe still use your portrait as a social media profile picture. So these are the kind of things that that are reminded when we talk about the Lausanne conference. And hosting this conference was a very great opportunity for Lausanne. And at the same time, people may not have realized was that this digital humanities, the dynamic in Lausanne was very fragile at the time. So it was kind of fortunate coincidence. And it really, in fact, well, since this conference, lots of people come talk to me at other DH conferences and say, "Oh, Lausanne is so an interesting place for digital humanities. You are doing so many things there, etc., etc." But basically, this conference really put us on the map of global digital humanities. But clearly, the situation in Lausanne is a bit different than this very nice picture we probably gave to the world in 2014. On a personal note, it was also in 2014 that I became chair of Humanistica, the French-speaking digital humanities association that got created during the DH 2014 conference. And by the way, that's another meeting point with the trajectory of Michael Sinatra, who was also one of the founding members. So about the local situation, that's the nice picture, and then the local situation is a bit more critical, or was critical in 2014, because in Lausanne you had these two institutions, the EPFL, so the elite engineer school, and the University of Lausanne, which is a more local institution. And EPFL launched the DH Lab in 2012, hiring Frédéric Kaplan and really becoming a research unit. While on the side of the university, we created a laboratory for digital humanities and culture, the LADUL, who was more like a meeting place, a place where people were gathering to discuss digital humanities. So already we had this kind of discrepancy between what was happening in one of the partner institutions and in our institution, both of them organizing, co-hosting the DH 2014 conference. And so, of course, these two institutions have very different structures and institutional logics and also budgets, because one is a federal university while the other one is a regional one. The fact that at UNIL we had an institution that was mostly just a vague center that was more a gathering of few very motivated people, made it created also some problems, because it was not very rooted in a good institutional situation, especially because this was a center that was based on three faculties, and these faculties were not necessarily always very willing to cooperate together. So that was the social sciences, humanities, and theology. This center collapsed in 2021 because faculties were not agreeing on the terms of the conventions between them. In the meantime, EPFL launched Digital Humanities Institute, so a full department of digital humanities with different laboratories in there. So a big and nice research institution. We tried to gather together as a UNIL plus EPFL DH Center in 2018. That became an animation hub, a place where events were organized. But once again, collaboration between different entities, between the EPFL and the UNIL, failed after a few years, which is when the new NUCLEUS Center was founded on the UNIL side, and specifically in one faculty at UNIL. So that's a new thing. What is it really? Is it very different from what was before? Is it more successful? Probably not. But still, that's the organization we try to animate to become a lively place for the colleagues today. So I will speak now about this new arrival on the Lausanne digital humanities scene. In fact, following the previous failure, which showed that the DH at the University of Lausanne were not yet mature, nobody wanted the center anymore. Lots of people they quit and they started doing the stuff in their own departments. And at some point, we realized that people were still doing digital humanities, and that some little groups, some little initiatives were happening, and that might have justified the creation of a new center to gather all these new activities. Especially, we had like a committee that was tasked to coordinate courses that include the digital skills. There was a board that was already bringing together the research engineers who were thinking about their digital infrastructures. We had colleagues asking our authorities, our rectorate, to rule on the energy efficiency of our digital practices. We had lots of hardware to manage, so the faculty wanted someone to manage the hardware at the faculty level, and lots of new questions arose when generative AI erupted in our daily practices. So there were lots of these little initiatives and themes that created the will to create a center to try to make sense of all these little heterogeneous dynamics. And in fact, all these issues were already addressed by working groups. Most of the working groups that now compose the center were already existing. There were a little community of practices around specific themes. There were little groups of specialists around specific tools, etc., etc. So it became quite interesting to create a center to make all these people speak together and create something a bit bigger than the reunion of just a few people in these little subgroups. What is interesting about these different groups is the heterogeneity. Some are directly created on the basis of a top-down approach. That's a top-down order from the arts faculty, where we are formally asked for our opinion on specific things, or we're specifically tasked to manage some resources. For example, we have the working group on digital skills. That's clearly an example of these top-down missions. Because the role of this group was to take stock of what we teach in our courses and to enhance the value of our students' diplomas by trying to draw up a list of the skills developed in the courses. So we set up a group to go around all the departments to draw up a unified list of all the digital skills we require of our students, so that these skills can be made explicit to them. The goal was really to try to make from the lectures to create a list of all these skills, so that we can be really explicit about the digital skills we expect from our students and the digital skills that we teach them. So this is a rather long-term process to ensure that these digital skills are actually present in the curricula as well, because sometimes if it's not explicit, then it might also disappear. And I'm of course not just talking about digital humanities courses, but all humanities in general. Another group that is based on a top-down mission is the generative AI working group, where we produce a reflection on the eruption of these technologies and its impacts on our teaching and research. It has to be said that our university is quite under pressure from the political world in Switzerland, but doesn't really know where to start. I mean, the politics, they are coming and say, hey, university, you are supposed to talk about the impact of AI on society, and also to reflect on how does that change the assessment of the students' work, etc., etc. And the university is a very diverse place with lots of different disciplines, and all these disciplines, they deal very differently with generative AI. So they asked us to create a group to try to assess the situation in our faculty and to see what are the specificities of the humanities in this regard. So it was a top-down approach. We were tasked to do that, but very soon we realized that this group was answering a more bottom-up questions from our colleagues, questions from our students. So it started not really following the top-down order, but more to organize something that was a bit more horizontal, setting up a small research seminar, having meetings to test new tools like, hey, I tried the new version of ChatGPT, here is what I found, etc., etc. So more about our experiences, to get feedbacks, to get good ideas, to get to try to draft pedagogical scenarios together, etc., etc. So that became something that was a bit more bottom up. And sometimes, on the contrary of this top-down approach, we have also bottom-up initiatives, like our colleagues that who are calling our authorities to account on the mental health or environmental issues linked to the use of digital technology. That's the example of this working group called Digital Sobriety, Citizenship, and Ecology. And this is a group that is looking at how the digital transition impacts on the individual in our professional and private relationships, on our physical and mental health, and more broadly on the natural environment. This led to the drafting of a charter for the right to disconnect for the benefit of digital sobriety. So they created this charter to try to make people understand that using digital tools has impact on our mental health and on the environment. And that's an interesting paper that is circulating within the university now to see if the university can implement something that something like a right to the disconnection for the colleagues and also for the students to care for mental health, especially. And we also have many of these groups, many of these working groups within the center that are small, self-constituted communities built around a particular method, a specific discipline, or a set of tools. That's, for example, the case of a working group on antiquity and archaeology, because these disciplines, they have specific needs in terms of handwriting recognition, translation, field scanning, three-dimensional reconstitution, just to name a few examples. And here on the slide, you see an example of a project involving the reconstruction of the ruins of Palmyra in Syria. Based on surveys carried out by archaeologists in the past. So it's not the 3D scan of a building, it is really the reconstruction of a building that has been destroyed by the Islamic State recently, 2015, I think. They are working on the archives of previous archaeologists to try to remodel the building as it was sketched and precisely documented by previous archaeologists. So this is the archaeology of archaeologists themselves in a certain way. As an example of another little community around specific tools or methods, we have a working group on 3D and virtual reality. Because those digital infrastructures, whether software and hardware, they create the need for these people together because they need to manage these resources together. Especially because there is an accumulation of tools, there is an accumulation of equipment that needs updates, that needs documentation, that needs tutorials, that needs budgets, of course, for the replacement of parts or buying new software, etc., etc. So there is a little group around all these more practical aspects of our research that is really trying to manage the resources we have. And in fact, here in this case, it's one of these research community, but the faculty, they recognized that this research community was useful, and they delegated the management of most of the faculty equipment to this group, and also the budget that was dedicated to buying software, etc., etc. So this little group of people now is in charge of a part of the budget of the faculty, small part, but this is an important part of our own administrative activity. In fact, because we've got this very big budget lines that are now on our center budget because they recognize that they don't have the specific skills at the faculty level. They wanted to these budgets and this hardware to be managed by people that know how to operate them. So this is one other example of this kind of small community that we gather in the center. So in a word, the center emerges from all these different little groups. It's almost nothing more than the sum of all these small groups with very diverse interests. And in the midst of all these different circles that are overlapping, as I present them on this slide, a board was set up made up of some of the leaders of some working groups and a few colleagues directly employed by the faculty to manage the infrastructure. So we elected a board from the people that are active in these different groups to try to manage the center as a whole. And of course, we see that this very soon that this patchwork becomes more than the sum of these small communities. People jump from one to another, develop new ideas, like organizing scientific events, organizing their own mini community, setting up in-house training courses because they realize that there are other people that are working with on neighboring areas, setting up joint teaching programs because, hey, you want to experiment a pedagogical scenario about the use of AI in your course, I also want to do that. So maybe we should give a course together to as a test for this pedagogical scenario, etc., etc. So this is something that is a bit more than of course just the addition of all these different groups, because these groups overlap and thus create new dynamics. So after 2 or 3 years, the center now counts around 100 people. And while it began as something in opposition to the traditional model of a center, it is spontaneously developing meeting places and things that are more traditional in a certain way. So it's becoming a more traditional center, even if I'm trying to stress the fact that it is more like a collection of small working groups. But it is also true that unless the center's board actually organize gatherings of all members, these occasions are very limited. We have very few occasions to meet everybody and to have everybody in the same room to discuss the center as a whole. After a few years in operation, we are quite pleased with the momentum, but we face a number of challenges. So being less ambitious than previous initiatives in Lausanne, it has the advantage of no longer being dependent on several different faculties and universities, so we are rather free of doing what we want. But this very organic way of working is also poses a number of challenges. First, most of our colleagues have well-defined specifications, so why take an extra task if it's not directly ordered by the hierarchy? I mean, if it's a fully horizontal thing, why would you get involved in that if it's not really written on your to-do list, if it's not something that you're paid for? So that's the first problem, and I think that's probably a problem that most of the centers that are a gathering of people that give freely some time are probably also experiencing. And also because participation in these activities is not very well recognized. I mean, there is no real way to say I'm member of the working group on this and that. That doesn't mean a lot at the faculty level. People will not really see that as a little medal that you can put on your shirt and say, hey, look, I'm a member of this and I'm doing that. Also, another problem is that by the very nature, the fact that these working groups are based on very specific topics and very specific tasks, they have a short to medium life expectancy. So that also means that it's very hard to say that I'm the member of something that is lasting, that is doing something for the long term, etc., etc. So sometimes you just need to make a list of these digital skills. So it takes 2 years to meet all the colleagues and to make this very big list. The list is approved by the faculty council, and then then the group has nothing else to do. We produce this list. We hope it will be used in the right way, but there's nothing to do anymore. So that's a problem. That means that we have lots of people that then disappear in a certain way. They are not needed here anymore, and they are probably not interested in a group on AI or a group of 3D modeling. So they will just disappear in a certain way. They will stay as members of the centers, but they have no activity anymore. So yeah, problem of long term. And there is also the problem of getting these top-down missions where we get budgets and tasks from the faculty, while we don't necessarily have the qualified personnel to do that. We have qualified personnel to work on the machines, to work with the hardware, but we don't have the personnel to work with the budgets and to be a real secretary or treasurer of the center, because we are all giving some time to make this run. So that's a problem when getting lots of tasks from the faculty level when we don't have any personnel, any staff that is permanent at the center, because every 2 years the board can change completely, and so all the institutional memory might get lost, and also all the internal processes, etc. So that's a problem, because that's the kind of problem a young center has, because yeah, probably after some years we might get some staff, etc., but that's clearly the kind of thing we are trying to cope with now. So as a conclusion, at the University of Lausanne, we've gone from a laboratory who was not really a laboratory, it was called a laboratory, the first one on the left, serving as a meeting place, to an inter-university center in the center here, which despite a quite large budget, didn't find any echo in the two institutions, to find ourselves on the right here with a sort of a loosely defined mini center. And that is just a group of different working groups in specific disciplines or specific community of practices. I don't claim that the model we are in today is new, nor that it solves the problem better than any other, especially not the first two here. I'm simply saying that for now it responds to it responds to the needs we have. Some very very specific, some that are much less clearly defined. Time will tell whether it survives for a few years or whether the twists and turns of Lausanne digital humanities will lead to the same fate as previous initiatives. I think we have to be humble in the face of all this, serve where we can and step aside where we can't. So I look forward to discussing this with you and learning from your own experiences. Thank you for your attention.